Hi, my name is Alan Patrick, and I am the resource manager for the D&D Adventurers League. I wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about some revisions that we recently launched for the CCC program. CCCs are it's the abbreviation for Community Created Content. Formerly, this program had been known as the Convention Created Content, and it didn't quite hit the notes that we were shooting for. One of the big things that our community has asked for is how they can become more involved in the ongoing storylines that are present, and how they can, to go with that, how they can have a little more ownership of those events and those games. So, along with our staff inside the office at Wizards of the Coast, the admins put together a plan, and basically we want to put the power of creation in the hands of the community. We do still have our hardcover adventures that come out regularly throughout the year. We've got the PDF adventures that are released to support those storylines, but we've cut off a couple of chunks of the world of the Forgotten Realms, Faerun, and given that over to the community. The best starting point for that would be then to talk a little bit about the Moonsea. The Moonsea is where we based our first few seasons of adventures and is now actually the center of action for the entire CCC program. There are a couple other places around the world that have been carved off and sort of set aside for development, meaning we're not looking at doing much with it in the proverbial office, but some of our event partners have been given pretty much exclusive access to those areas. Baldwin Games runs a whole lot of events like Gen Con and Origins, Winter Fantasy, and they represent the Adventurers League at those events. So in return for their dedication and all the awesome stuff they do for the community, we've recognized them and we've given them the Moonsea Isles. Similarly, the staff at Gamehole Con, which is it's a single event, but man, it's a pretty cool one. There's a lot of community members that show up there, a lot of creators, old and current, people from all sorts of games. The staff at Gamehole Con decided that they wanted the Border Kingdoms, and we worked with them to reach that agreement. And honestly, by we, I mean it's something that was set aside by Wizards. The D&D admins, the D&D Adventures League admins, don't really have much in that conversation chain. We can support those sorts of decisions, but those premier event partners, that's an arrangement that they reach with Wizards. So if you are interested in becoming one of those, unfortunately, I can't give you any more of an answer. You'll just have to reach out and talk to the Wizard staff directly. Starting with customer service would be your best bet. But I digress. Let's talk about the program and not the big shiny thing at the end, right? So CCCs. It is creating content. Like, at its heart, you're writing stories, you're delivering an experience, and this gives you some really cool toys, right? You can directly interface with your local gamers to deliver content that is meaningful to them, because let's be honest, every group, every region is going to be at least a little bit different. What resonates for my gamers here in the greater Michigan area may not be supremely important for folks in, say, Los Angeles or in the greater Seattle area or Italy. Public events can hit up our website and grab the most current content creation rules. Our website, dndadventuresleague.org/events, would be where you want to start. That'll have your link to the most current version of all those creation documents. You are welcome to check those out at any time. There's guidelines in there. It tells you specifically how the program operates and a bunch of the expectations, gives you the adventure template, some lexicon stuff. There's a lot of really good info in there. When you are getting started, first hit that website, dndadventuresleague.org/events, and pull down those reference docs. It is super, super helpful. But there are some things that you need to know. Number one, you have to use the forms and the templates that are in there. Now, that does mean that you are likely going to need to use a Windows-based machine, simply because there is a PDF file for adventure concepts. That PDF concept that has some drop-down menus that have some scripting going on behind the scenes, and I've been told that they don't necessarily work appropriately if you just try and open it in your browser, or if you try and open it on like a Mac or a mobile device. open it on a Windows machine. That is the only file that we are going to accept when you submit it. And the reason for that is that after we took a look at the last probably 400 or so concept documents that were sent over to us, we were spending a massive amount of time responding and telling people that they had chosen incorrect items or incorrect adventure durations or things that weren't necessarily going to work. So that form must be used. Going forward, there are some Microsoft template documents and the adventure template itself. That's all in there. You do need to use that template. Word is available on a large variety of platforms, and while you can use Word in Office 365 in your web browser, I don't believe that the template support is in there. If you can make it work, more power to you. We'd be happy to see it. But you're going to have to use Microsoft Office for that. I know there are a lot of people who really do enjoy other software solutions, like OpenOffice. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to accept those anymore. Similar to the concept doc, we spent a lot of time responding to folks and letting them know that they had used incorrect files, wrong fonts, all sorts of stuff. So use the files that are there. There's a handy little README file that actually breaks down some of this as well. It's all included in the zipped archive. That's the boring housekeeping stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the Moonsea and what opportunities it represents. The Moonsea is a very well developed area of the Forgotten Realms, and by that I mean there's a great amount of inspirational history, but not so much that your players will and your authors will the term I guess is choke on it. Realms lore is a complicated thing for a lot of folks, and what I want to recommend is make it your own. If the history doesn't work for you, you're welcome to do revisions here and there. We don't want anyone to feel like they're taking a history lesson by writing or playing an adventure. We want them to have fun. We want them to roll dice and create heroic legacy stories. So don't let a little legacy lore get in the way, right? Be creative. And to support that, we've actually expanded our program. Now, periodically throughout the year, we will put out an open call for CCC submissions and concepts, and those are targeted for Tier 2 and Tier 3 adventures, which will need to take place in and around the Moonsea. And that's for events that want to tell more of an ongoing story. But what we've found with this program is that Tier 1 is really the meat and potatoes of it. So because of the number of interested events, we've decided to forego the initial concept approval phase. And inside the documents that you find at dndadventuresleague.org/events, you'll find 4 very, very vague concepts. And those concepts do have assigned rewards. You do need to use those rewards, but you're welcome to tell whatever story will fit that very loose concept. Choose one of the 4. One of them is something about the old couple that's always been out in the woods, and now you have to go secure their aid. But what does that actually mean? Well, the old couple, maybe that's a pair of broken down old willow trees in the middle of a druid grove. Perhaps it's 2 giant ruined obelisks covered in Qualith. Qualith is the native language of the Mind Flayers. Perhaps it's 2 surly halfling smiths that can't make up their mind if they're going to make weapons or brownies today. I leave that to the authors. I want to see super, super creative solutions come out of this. The rewards, while those do need to be used, you may find that those rewards change once or twice during the year. We are anticipating that folks will begin to develop these adventures much more quickly than we had seen previously. Tier 1 2-hour adventures can generally be worked on pretty quickly, so we're excited to see what happens. Some other creation notes. Tier 2 and 3, there's some really cool stuff you can do there, but those can get more and more complex. Please pay special attention to the magic item reward tables and the checkpoint rules that are presented in the creation document. It's the CCC Creation Rules 2019 update. You'll see that PDF inside the bundle. Of special note, Tier 4. Now, Tier 4 covers levels 17 through 20. And we realize that there are people who really, really want to play more Tier 4 content. We are not allowing Tier 4 CCCs at this time. I know that will let some folks down, but something I want to stress on this. Tier 4 is reality-ending calamity. On top of that, it is very difficult to write and design for. We want to make sure that this program continues to empower people to do heroic things and to build their heroic legacy. And Tier 4 is generally an end cap. It's where legacy stops. There's not a lot of Tier 4 play opportunity. Generally speaking, we find that levels 17 through 20 receive less than 1% of overall play. We may come back to this at some point, but I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. For now, we're going to be sticking with the no Tier 4. We're just not looking for it. We would rather see more really strong Tier 1, Tier 2, and some Tier 3 concepts thrown out there and really cool content delivered. We'll see what happens as time goes on, though. Really, something I want to stress is that all of these things really need to be story first. Don't worry so much about mechanics. Draw inspiration from other adventures that you played, maybe you DM'd, and you really got a kick out of them. Did they do cool traps? Did they have some really cool NPCs? And use them, right? All of these adventures, all these CCC adventures, do get published to DM's Guild. We may have some back and forth on approval and some fine-tuning, but the intention is to get them all on DM's Guild so that the awesomeness that you have for your event can be shared with others later. And really, like, tell a cool story, empower people to do off-the-wall things, and you'll find the players and DMs will react very, very positively to that. If you enable them to leave the table and go tell all their friends about these awesome things that they're doing, and for 4 hours they just told stories, then that means you've done it right. That's the victory. And I love hearing those things. Some of you may have some concerns. Maybe you've never written before. Maybe you don't have a public event to join up with. Well, that's all pretty easily resolved. We define a public event as any event that is open to the public, and pretty much that's it. Now, we do have an event approval process, and all CCCs must be run through and developed by approved events. Getting approval for your event is pretty simple stuff. Hit that website, and I know this is like a broken record, but dndadventuresleague.org/events, and put in your submission. Give us your code of conduct, your event dates, and some general information. Who's your point of contact? And we want to know what's going on, what's awesome, and where you're located. As long as all that falls in line with expectations, the code of conduct is the biggest piece of that. And that's to protect your players, protect yourselves, make sure that you're providing a safe and inclusive environment. As long as all that passes muster, you can start your development process. Again, those Tier 1 2-hour adventures don't need an initial approval. As long as you're deploying them after January 1st of next year, you're solid. Develop them. 1 per day. Go for it. So let's say you have a game shop and you want to run some custom events, right? You want to run some custom adventures. And once a month, your store draws in all of their D&D players and you just have a really big pizza party game day, right? This is a great opportunity to take advantage of this. That counts as a public event as long as it has gone through the event approval process. We've seen your code of conduct, and you tell us, hey, I've got this thing. We do it, the 4th Sunday of every month. You can produce a new Tier 1 adventure, for every one of those. You run you have that event every month. It means you get 12 extra adventures a year. If it's a 2-day event, you do 2 of them. Write what you find interesting. Everyone's going to find different things interesting. I want to remind prospective authors to not judge themselves too harshly. Everyone starts somewhere, and don't judge your success against the people that inspired you to be here. There are adventure authors that I deeply admire and that I know I won't ever be able to do what they do. And the same is true in reverse. And I've had that conversation with some people. Without getting into names, there are some very successful people in the industry that I look up to a great deal. And just laid it out for them. Like, I really, really like what you did with this, and I can't touch it. And they've come back and with similar comments in return. Um, don't beat yourself up too much. Just because someone has a skill doesn't mean that you can't learn it or develop your own style of it. Own what you own and be awesome. If you need to grab additional supplies for your adventure, say you need cartography, you need art, all that sort of stuff, DM's Guild is a great place to start. There are a lot of commercially available, commercial use, commercial license art pieces provided by Wizards available on DM's Guild free of charge. No attribution needed. Just download them and use them. If you look at the file names, you may find some silly ones. But it's got a lot of art from 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition in there. You may find commercial use license art on like DriveThru RPG or any of the other members of that family of web stores from One Bookshelf. If you're looking for maps, I really want to stress that Dyson Logos is a great, great resource for that. Dyson has made publicly available and commercially licensed for free a significant number of his maps. Now, he does have a Patreon and stuff for new content, but the old content from last year and the year before, we're talking a couple of hundred entries, and it's all very high quality. If you've been picking up the recent hardcovers, you may have spotted his work in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, a little bit in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and just kind of all over the place. There's some really, really cool work going on there. Really, that's it at the crux of it. Like, those are all bells and whistles, right? Art and maps and all that stuff. If your adventure doesn't need them, don't worry about them. If your adventure does need them, just make sure you have the correct license and that you attribute appropriately, right? Just as how you would want someone else to credit you for your work as an author, make sure you credit your hardworking artists and cartographers. And if you get a chance, maybe buy something from them, even if you've acquired those things for free. Throw them a couple of bucks here and there to show your appreciation, especially because you're going to be putting this on DM's Guild and selling it. It's a smart move, and it helps support the industry. Everyone gets better because of it. That's really about it. I've kind of trailed off a little bit here because it is intensely hot up in my office. Unfortunately, I don't have any air, so I'm currently melting. Yeah, that's it. That's CCCs. I really, really look forward to seeing some super creative entries from everybody, and let's see what the future holds, yeah?